Here we have a Tandell 29 Plus full rigid carbon fork, booth spacing. It's got a tapered head tube, a carbon steerer, and loads of clearance, and also an internal cable routing here. To get around that, I have an order a problem solver's stick-on cable guide that I'm going to put here, so that when I need to swap between my suspension fork and this, I won't have to cut and bleed a line. The other thing to note is related to the through axle. So there's two pieces here. There's, I guess, the part that threads into one side of the leg, and then the actual through axle itself. So on this side, there's actually, let's see if it'll focus. There was a spot for a set screw here. That had a little insert, and then that would lock this piece in like this, but with this little groove here. But when you tightened it and anything passed to the point where this was kind of loose, the insert pulled itself out. So I just removed the set screw in the insert, and from now on, when I need to put the axle on, I'll just hold this stationary and then put the through axle in. The other thing to note, as you can see, I did a little bit of modification to the end of this through axle. If you see here, right here, the handle of the through axle, when you're on your last like 2 turns to tighten it, it would actually contact, which is not ideal no matter which way you orientated it. So, like I said, I modified, which I ended up taking, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 millimeters away from the handle of this through axle, and I still have all the leverage. I still think it's completely okay to use, and I solved that issue there. Then for this little set piece, I don't know exactly where, but I think it's going to be roughly vertical to have this little set piece. I'll hold that and then screw the through axle on, and then it should stop the axle where the handle is about roughly right up in the air. But yeah, besides those two little issues, I've only had one ride on it, and I took it off, put the suspension fork back on. But check a bunch of reviews all over the forums. There's people who have beat on these forks for a really long time without any issue, and quality-wise, it is pretty nice. So, yeah, if you're looking for a reasonably cheap, as in just over $200, shipped to the U.S., boost carbon fork to save some weight off a hardtail or your mountain bike you have, this seems like a pretty good option. Just be aware of these two small, we'll call them issues, with the set screw insert pulling out, and then the axle issue. I was going to try to get a different axle, but this is a pretty coarse thread. And I guess I really didn't look too much further into that because I knew it was different than the RockShox and Fox axles. So I figured it'd be easier to get the grinder wheel out and just modify this. And it's really not that much of a deal, that big of a deal, to go ahead and just hold this insert when you take the wheel on and off. Seems like you don't really do that a whole bunch of times. But yeah, if you have any other questions about it, want any measurements, leave a comment below. It's also, I think, 495 millimeter axle at crown, so it'll work really well for a trail hardtail or basically a 120 to 130 mil fork at sag.